What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be showing you another Witch Doctor build, and I already showed you my Carnival build. You know, if you want to see that, I'll link it in the description. It's a great starter build, but this one is kind of the next step up. This is what, once you farm up some of the gear, it's what you can really start pushing those leaderboards with and start being more efficient as a solo Witch Doctor. So it's a great build, and a lot of you guys, I'm sure, have already guessed it. It is the Jade Harvester build. So we'll go ahead and run through the skills. I'll show you the gear, and then, depending on the length of the video, I'll upload a gameplay footage, some T6, regular riffs, and then maybe a couple greater riffs. I've played around with some skills and stuff, and some items, and I found something that I think works really well, and then some great options also, depending on what you have. I mean, you can see my gear's not optimal, but it works even with what I have. So we'll go ahead and start with the skills. The first one here is Haunt Poison Spirit. Again, we're running a poison-based build. So this is your main kind of damage dealer. You want to try and get this on all of the enemies that you can. You just want to spam the crap out of this spell, right? And with the Poison Spirit rune, haunted enemies take 20% more damage from all sources. So pretty solid damage dealer there. For the second skill, I'm running Mass Confusion Paranoia. And with this rune, it says all enemies in the area of Mass Confusion take 20% additional damage for 12 seconds. So basically it makes, everything not be able to move and take 20% more damage. So really solid. The only drawback is the 60-second cooldown. But if you're running this build and playing it properly, and I'll show you like in the clips of when we're actually running, how to use the build properly to where this cooldown isn't going to be 60 seconds. It's going to be much faster. It's going to be up for all the elite fights or large pack fights. I really like this skill. There is some other options here, and out of all of them, I think this is kind of the one that you can switch around and play with. This skill is pretty solid, but there's also a lot of other options. One that I really like is Wall of Zombies. So this is with the Wrecking Crew rune. So this is going to make a wall of zombies that do a little bit of damage, pretty small amount, but it also kind of draws the enemies to that area for the duration, 4-second duration. So it kind of pulls them all over there, gets them where you want, and then you can run in and use your piranhas and stuff like that to group them up even more. So it's a pretty solid choice, especially if you're having some problems staying alive, maybe early on, like you just got your Jade set and you're kind of working on building that up. So that's a pretty solid choice. Let's see. Grasp of the Dead. I've seen this be ran. I tried it. I honestly didn't like it that much, but I have seen other guys use it and use it quite well. So again, it's probably one of those skills where you're just gonna have to play around with and kind of get the feel for. But it's another viable option. I just don't personally like the slower area, a little bit slower area or smaller area. But that's a good option. We're running poison, so you can go ahead with maybe like Desperate Grasp rune. It reduces the cooldown by 2 seconds, and it changes the damage to poison. So it'll be doing a little bit more damage since we are spec for poison. Something like that would work. Now I'm using an item I'll show you here in a second, which makes it to where I don't have to use this skill. But this is probably your second best option, I think, if you don't have the item that I'll show you. But this is a really solid skill, Locust Swarm. It's got really good damage, and it works great with the Jade set because when you cast the Soul Harvest, it's going to do instant damage of this. Plus, you can set up your runes for whatever suits you. Usually, like Pestilence is a really nice one because it's poison, and it, once you cast it, it'll actually jump to multiple enemies, which is fantastic. Less aiming, more spread, great stuff. I also have another item that I chose to not use, but it's also a viable option, is Summon the Zombie Dogs. And there's different options. You can do like Leeching Beasts, 100% of your life on hit with every attack, or maybe Rabid Dogs since you're running that poison build. And the item I'm talking about is a Tall Man's Finger. I did not personally like it that much, but it is viable and it did work. I just like to have a bit more control, and the giant dog just kind of does whatever he wants, and he hits really hard though. I'll give him that, but it's not controllable. It's not very good in packs. Much better against single target. But for now, I'll show you the Mass Confusion, Paranoia, and then the rest of the skills are pretty much set in stone. We got Piranha's Piranhado. This is just a great control type skill. Does good damage and allows you to set up and stay alive because nothing's going to be attacking you. Spirit Walk Jaunt increases the duration to 3 seconds. More uptime is great. Especially with this build, you're going to want to run into the middle of packs and then back out. You don't want to die while you're in there because of Soul Harvest here. Soul Harvest is your main damage. After you get your dots on there, you cast this and everything just basically explodes. So you'll kind of Spirit Walk into the pack after your Haunt and everything else is on it. Spirit Walk into the pack, cast your Soul Harvest, boom, everything dies, and then sprint to the next one because your cooldowns are going to be reset. So this one we're using Siphon, and I chose Siphon because I think it's a great skill. You can see it gains 32,000 life for every harvested enemy. So when you go in and you just explode everything, your HP can go from 0 to full, as soon as you're done with that pack, which is great. I really like that rune for this skill. Horrify, another great skill, kind of helps control the mobs. You're a little bit squishy, so try and get in there, get close, that way you can hit these smaller AoE type things. And this is just another way to kind of control them. Once you horrify, they're going to be kind of just frozen in the area where they're horrified. So it's a great initiation skill. Basically cast this when you run in there, and then start laying into them with your other skills. We're using the Stalker rune here because I was running a little bit lower greater rifts and also regular T6 rifts. So I wanted the increased movement speed after casting this because I was literally just spamming the number 4 key. I was just click, 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 horrify. And it was basically an almost permanent 20% movement speed. So it was really good. If you start getting into a little bit higher greater rifts, like I did at 34, and I wished that I had changed this. But Face of Death would be your next option. Once you start pushing those leaderboards, once you start pushing up those greater rifts, you're probably going to want to go to Face of Death. It increases the radius by 6 yards, so it goes up to 24 yards, which is really nice because you can horrify even more enemies, So it works really good. I really like that rune as well. For our passes, we have Pierce the Veil. Still having no mana issues with this build. Like I said, I did like a 34 greater rift, and some of the longer fights you get a little bit lower on the mana, but not too bad, really. Not too bad. And plus it regenerates so fast, it's really not an issue. So Pierce the Veil, basically a free 20% increase in damage. Really good. Grave Injustice is a must-have. This is why your cooldowns are going to be much quicker, because when you're casting stuff, you're usually going to be really close, like in the middle of the group when you explode them all with your Soul Harvest, right? So you're going to be right there. All the enemies in there are going to reset your cooldowns. Even with this long 60-second cooldown Mass Confusion skill, it's going to be much faster. It might come right back up, or you might reduce the cooldown by like 30 seconds just off of a decent sized pack. So must-have skill. Creeping Death works great with everything that we're using. Another must-have. And then Spirit Vessel I have here, and this works pretty well. It helps reduce the cooldown of Spirit Walk and Soul Harvest. 2 skills that we're using, really good, and it also gives you like a free lifeline, right? So I'm still kind of learning the build and not quite sure exactly how to position yet. So this is great for me because a lot of times I'll just die, and this saves you from dying. So no one wants to stare at that respawn timer, right? I'm thinking once I get used to this build though, I may switch to Jungle Fortitude. I practiced with this in 2 rifts, and it worked actually really well. I just think for now, from kind of lack of personal skill at the moment, Spirit Vessel is helping a bit more. But Jungle Fortitude is a permanent 15% damage reduction. So super awesome. And I think this is probably where I'll end up putting this skill, or if I can get like a Hellfire Amulet, with this skill or Spirit Vessel, I'll probably run that. But as for the 4 passives, there you go. Jungle Fortitude, I'd say swap out with your Spirit Vessel if if you're getting the hang of the build. I think it's going to help you out a little bit more. Then we'll go ahead and go to the gear. So this is just a pretty simple Jade Harvester. I'm using a Wormwood. I mentioned that I wasn't using the Locust Swarm. That's because the legendary effect on this Locust Swarm is cast on a nearby enemy every second. So this actually procs pretty often, and it helps a ton with your DPS. Plus, it frees you up a skill slot, which I'm using Mass Confusion instead of Locust Swarm. And so it helps with mana, it helps free up that slot, everything else. The only downfall is if you don't have Locust Swarm put onto your skill bar, you're not going to have a rune. So this is just going to be casting the basic Locust Swarm with no rune. But still, I did some testing, and honestly, I think that the damage is just fine like this. I think that the extra little bit, like the Pestilence rune where it goes to other targets and stuff, I think is good, but this casts often enough to where it's not a big deal. So it works much better. Plus, I like having the extra option here, right? So you can see this isn't ancient or anything like that, but it rolled somewhat decently. I could have rolled 140 more damage there, get a little bit more damage, but the poison rolled pretty well at 24%. And then I went ahead and rolled 10% damage. It's got decent intelligence. And I also went ahead and grifted it because I found 3 of these, and this was by far the best one that I saw. So until I get an ancient, this will do just fine. And then we have our Jade Harvester boots. So these are kind of garbage, and the reason I say that is because it's got movement speed on it. So I'm Paragon 437. I have the Paragon points available to put movement speed in there rather than on gear. So there's much better things than movement speed that you can get on gear, So it's unfortunate that's what I had. I don't remember what I rolled to the regenerate life per second, but it was even worse. So I don't remember what it was, but these could be a lot better, but they're what I have so far, and they got a secondary resistance, which helps as well. Then we have Jade Pants, and these are decent. We have 460 int, 483 vitality, and a secondary resistance with some regenerate life per second. So that's pretty good. For a ring, we're using the same ring I was using on Carnival. We got int crit hit damage, a socket, secondary resist, and then the attack speed's unfortunate. I would really like to get another one of these rings with similar stats minus the attack speed. Maybe go some cooldown or something like that. Crit hit chance and cooldown instead of intelligence and attack speed would be perfect, but haven't found one yet. To be honest, haven't really farmed for one yet, so hopefully we'll get one. And then for the gloves, we have Jade Harvester's gloves, and these are okay. We have 712 int, 668 vit. I rolled some crit damage, and it's got some crit chance with a secondary resist. So pretty good. I would like if the vit was reduced cooldown. Again, we want those cooldowns to be reduced by a lot. Like, the sweet area is going to be probably about 45% to 50%. I'm not there yet, and if I had these 2 items, I'd be a lot closer, and the build would work a lot better. So if I could find, like, ideal gloves would be int, cooldown reduction, crit chance, and crit hit damage with a secondary resist. So definitely some room to improve. Like I said, not optimized, but working on it. And then we have the Jade Harvester shoulders, and these are pretty good. Ancient set, 620 int, 588 vit, some all res, and then I rolled reduced cooldown of all skills by 8%. So really good, pretty happy with those. Jade Harvester chest, pretty good also. We got int vit and then increased haunt damage. I was rolling this increased haunt damage to 15%, and then got sidetracked by whatever reason, so it's still at 13. So we're going to go ahead and get that up to 15 because it's pretty solid. It's also got a secondary resist and 3 sockets. So really good chest. Ancient version would be better, but these are the stats you want. Then we have Quetzalcoatl. We got the Quetz helm. I don't know how to pronounce that. But we have this thing, and this is great. We got int crit chance of 6. Life per hit's pretty garbage. I wish that rolled something different. but the big int and crit hit chance are great. I had to roll a socket onto it, but it's the secondary effect. I mean, you really got to have this helm to make this build work even better. You know, sometimes your stuff's gonna be on cooldowns, and if this reduced the locust swarm from your wormwood and also your haunt that you're just spamming like crazy in half, your damage is going to go up by double, right? If that makes sense. You're doing the same amount of damage in half as much time, which means you're doing twice as much damage. So, really good helm. Have to have it for this set. And the amulet. This is the same stinking amulet I've had since like level 70 and no Paragon levels, but it's you know, it's the best I've found so far. It's by far not great, but it's okay. We got crit chance, crit damage, a socket, and some int. If I didn't have to roll a socket onto it, I could have rolled the int for poison damage or, you know, something better. But it's okay. You know, hopefully we're gonna find something better. I'd really like to find a, you know, some kind of immune to something type effect. You know, immune to arcane, immune to lightning would be fantastic. Lightning and arcane both kind of aren't too fun with this build. So I'd really like to find one of those with crit chance, crit hit damage, you know, and a socket, and then I can roll that 4 stat to something really cool. For the bracers, we're using the same bracers I was using in Carnival, just because we're still using a poison build, and it's got 6% crit chance. They're ancient, so the int and vit are a little bit higher. So pretty good. I'd obviously, you know, best in slot is going to be strong arm bracers with poison crit chance, and then the secondary or the legendary effect is what you really want. Haven't found one, you know. I think even better than these for this build would be like Reaper's Wraps. I think Reaper's Wraps would be pretty good, and they're also craftable, so, you know, something to think about. I'm going to use these until I find strong arm bracers, just because, yeah, you know, I'm just like that. So we'll go ahead and use these. They're not horrible, not great, not horrible. For the ring, we're using Leoric's Signet, and this one's not too bad. I was also using this for the Carnival build, but this has crit hit damage, crit hit chance, and the stat that I re-rolled there to reduce cooldown of all skills, I'm still trying to get that to 8%. I think I ran out of gems or something to keep going, but, you know, there's other better stuff, but this is pretty good. I rolled that from, I believe, attack speed, and, you know, obviously put in a different gem. So another option I was trying for a ring is the Tall Man's Finger. I kind of mentioned that, and this one's not bad. I don't like the zombie dogs that much. You know, it summons one dog that does quite a bit of damage, honestly, but it's not controllable, and he's kind of sporadic. Great against single target, horrible in packs. So I don't know. We may try it again in the future, but for now, I like the cooldown a bit better than the zombie dog plus the wasted skill slot. For the belt, we have the Witching Hour. I'm still using this. I haven't even bothered re-rolling it because I don't plan on using this belt at all for this build. I really want a Vigilante belt like this, except for this one I found on my monk, so, you know, it's Dex. But I really like reduced cooldown of all skills is really nice, and then you can get a couple other really good stats on it too. And I think that's going to benefit more than the Witching Hour. So we'll see. Another option for a belt is the this thing, something wrap, right? Some guys using this int vit all res, and then the legendary effect is what's pretty cool. Locust Swarm also slows enemy, so we're casting Locust Swarm every second, and then it's also slowing enemies by 60 to 80%. Now I'd be using this belt over the Witching Hour if it rolled higher than 60%. If it's closer to 80, I'd probably swap this in and re-roll something. But so far, this is the only one I found, and, you know, the rolls aren't that great. I'd rather have that crit hit chance and wait for a better belt, preferably a Vigilante. Something else that I was playing around with was a Star Metal with a Thing of the Deep instead of the Wormwood, and it actually worked really well. I was surprised because the damage is a bit lower on one hand, I'm sure you guys know, but it still worked pretty well, you know, because you can keep the Fetish army up all the time instead of, like, maybe Mass Confusion. And the cool part was right here is increased gold and health pickup by 20 yards. The legendary effect on the Thing of the Deep. So that was making your Grave Injustice proc even more. So even if you weren't that close to stuff, you were still getting all of that, all of those cooldowns. So the cooldowns were coming off extremely fast. Plus you're able to keep your fetish army up all the time, which was also helping slightly with damage. Slightly. Still am looking for another unity. If I can find another unity, it's going to go where the Leoric Signet is, because I absolutely need the Royal Ring of Grandeur. But I'd really like the unity. It's going to help a ton with survivability, and it's going to really help you push up higher. And for the gems, I have Bane of the Trapped, Gem of Efficacious Toxin, I suppose, and then Bane of the Powerful. I'm really considering leveling up the Molten Wildebeest Gizzard, and the reason why, the regenerate life per second is good, but also after not taking damage for 4 seconds, gain an absorb shield for 200% of your total life per second. So this is going to help you stay alive a bit longer, for those larger blasts. So I really think this will be cool. Plus it's after 4 seconds. Our Spirit Walk is a 3 seconds, so you have 1 second between running and stuff for it to activate that 200% shield. So I'm going to go ahead and level this, try it out, and I think I'll swap it with Bane of the Powerful, and I think it's going to really help that survivability and kind of keep you in the fight for longer. So I'm going to try that, and then I'll let you guys know. But anyways, that's it for the build, guys. Hope you found it useful. Depending on how long this is, I kind of talked for a little bit longer than I expected, but I'll probably go ahead and link, tomorrow maybe a video of, maybe both sets. We'll do one run with the Wormwood, and then I'll show you one with the Star Metal and the Thing of the Deep. And we'll run those at the same difficulty, maybe T6, maybe like Greater Rift 30, 35, somewhere in there. And I'll just kind of show you guys what the build does, kind of how to use it, and I'll talk you guys through that, similar to what I did with the monks. So that way you guys can see the skills and builds, and then also kind of how to use it if you're new to the Witch Doctor. So anyways, hope you guys found this useful. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked, please leave a like, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.